Hey everyone, this is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and today we are going to continue our exploration of Mars's conjunction to Neptune in the sign of Pisces. We're going to take it through the 12 signs, give you horoscopes for all 12 rising and sun signs. And before we do that, I'm actually going to add just a few more thoughts about this archetypal combination. We sort of began looking at this combination yesterday. I'm going to add a few more thoughts to the Mars-Neptune archetypal mixture today, and then we'll go into some horoscopes. So as always, I appreciate it if you like and subscribe and share your comments in the comment section, all of which helps the channel to grow. Transcripts of my talks can always be found on my website, and so you can always take advantage of that if you want to read any of my talks. The new class, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, starts on June 5th. It's coming up really soon. You have a few weeks left to register, coming down to the wire now. You can learn more about it on my website, nightlightastrology.com. Go to the courses page, click on the first year course, scroll down, and you will see description of everything that's included in the course. Meets on Sundays for about 2 to 3 hours starting on June 5th from noon Eastern time to about 2:30 usually. There are 30 classes on the year. You can participate in the live webinars, or you can re-watch the recordings if you can't make it live. Everything is hosted for you on a class website. You get to keep and download everything, or have perpetual access to the website as well. There's also 12 guest lectures from visiting teachers. We have interactive group forum discussion that's staffed with tutors. You can talk to me throughout the year and ask me any questions you want about the material we're studying. There is also breakout study sessions between units. So there's a lot of support built into the program. If you have any questions about it, of course, you can email us info@nightlightastrology.com. And at the bottom of the first year page, you're going to find the different payment options. You have the early bird payment, which saves you $500 off, 12-month payment plan if you need to stretch it out a little bit over time. And then there is need-based tuition for anyone who really wants to study astrology, but for whatever reason, the price point is out of your range. Please be sure to take advantage of that. We do still have a few of those left. So you can apply and tell us your situation. If you have any questions, email us info@nightlightastrology.com. Also, year 2 and horary classes start June 11th and 12th. For horary, you just need to have a background in traditional astrology to join the class. Any questions about that, feel free to email us as well. So that in mind, we are back to looking at Mars and Neptune. And this combination perfected yesterday on May 17th, but it continues all the way through the end of this week. So we are going to look at where that Mars-Neptune conjunction lands by whole sign in your birth chart. Of course, I recommend your rising sign because that will align with the whole sign house version of your birth chart, which is really nice. Especially if you use whole sign houses regularly. That's the best one. Some people still want to listen to your sun sign instead. That's fine. You can do either one. Before we do that, I want to share just a few more insights about Mars Neptune and this theme of surrender and sacrifice in particular. Surrender, sacrifice, we'll just put this up. In each of the horoscopes, we're going to be talking about surrender, but surrender is kind of a multifaceted concept with Mars and Neptune. Surrender is also closely related with the idea of letting go or something dissolving, of making a sacrifice, or of acting on behalf of something bigger than yourself, or also asking the question, how can I spiritualize my actions, activities, intentions, and will in the world? How can my will align with something bigger than myself, whether you call that the Tao or the universe or God or whatever. I think it's a very Mars Neptune like idea. So I'm going to tell you guys a story. And before I start telling you the story, I also want to remind you guys, if you have stories to share, you can always share them using the hashtag grabbed, or email us grabbed@nightlightastrology.com. The ancient name for the planets was grahas, which means grabbers. So we're always looking to see how they're showing up and sort of seizing our consciousness and offering us humor and insights and wisdom. I love hearing those stories. We're going to be doing another storytelling episode soon. There's just been a lot of intense astrology this month that's kept me from doing other series. So we'll be back to that very soon. I've got a ton of really good stories to share with you guys. I'm going to share with you one today that is very reflective of the Mars-Neptune dynamic. Happened to me last Friday, and is sort of shaping the idea today behind the focus of our horoscopes, this idea of surrender, dissolution, sacrifice, spiritualizing our actions, etc. So last Friday, it was Friday the 13th, and I went to go. I had an appointment for tattoo removal. I've been working on, it's a long, slow process to have a tattoo removed. And been having a tattoo removed for a while, and I had an appointment to have it removed. I get to the parking garage next to the place, and I get out, and this woman comes up to me and says, "Hey, I need help jumping my car. Would you be able to help? Like, my car's not starting." And I said, "I am running late for this appointment right now. And I have like 2 minutes to get there. Otherwise I'm going to lose my spot. But it's a very short appointment, and they are tattoo removals. It's amazing how quickly it goes. It's very painful though. Anyway, so I said, I'll be right back. If you're still needing help when I get back, I will gladly help." And as I was walking away, I started thinking, I could have given up my tattoo appointment to help someone. I don't know why I'm being like so selfish. And I just started feeling bad. But then I thought, well, what about me? And so I started going back and forth over, should I help? Shouldn't I help? How much help is good? How much should I be doing something for me versus helping someone else? And I was like, this is so Mars Neptune associated with things like the Christ energy, Messiah complex, martyrs, like sinners and saints, victims. And, I was like, oh God, I'm like, here I am. And Mercury retrograde too, of course, someone's car was broken down. So anyway, I come back out of the tattoo appointment, and I'm just hoping that the woman's there so I can help, because I was feeling kind of bad about it. And sure enough, she was there and hadn't found help. So I was like, I brought my car over and we tried jumping it, and sat there for a while and nothing was happening. And I got out of the car and was kind of like, talking to her. I noticed in the car she had a car full of people that looked very unwell. Elderly woman in the back who did not look well. The heat was definitely not helping her. A husband, a brother, someone else in the front seat that was morbidly obese, like really bad. And I don't judge, I'm just trying to give you a picture. And I realized this woman is responsible for all of these people who look utterly dependent on her and not well. And I felt really bad for her. Because I just realized, like, here I am thinking, should I help or shouldn't I help? Like, should I have gone to my tattoo removal appointment to get my Christian cross tattoo removed? Or should I have done the Christian thing and stayed and, helped this woman and been Christ-like? And I was just like, well, how privileged I am to think over these like little thoughts while someone is sitting there in charge of tons of people's well-being who are not doing well, clearly. And, it's like, I felt like such a jerk, honestly. And anyway, so we're sitting there, and she's reaching that space where she's realizing this is not going to go well. This is not just a car. This is not just a battery. And I was realizing that too. And I was kind of I was not saying anything because it looked like she was this could be the straw that breaks the camel's back. She looked like she was about ready to have a breakdown emotionally. And I was just sitting there or whatever. And then she looks at me, she's got tears in her eyes, and she goes, "It's Friday the 13th. I knew I shouldn't have come out. I messed up. I messed up. And this is bad," and blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, oh boy, And I go, well, I said, keep the faith. Like, maybe this will work out. Maybe, maybe this won't be a Friday the 13th story. Maybe it'll be something else. And let's just keep the faith. We'll see, let's just keep trying. So we sat there continuing to let the car charge, and again, the realization kept setting in, like, this is not probably just the battery, probably an alternator problem, something else. So as I'm sitting there, I had to go through this very embarrassing process. I'm going to share it with you guys because I'm in the hopes that I'm not the only one who is ignorant enough to potentially go through something like this. But I said, well, keep the faith, like what? And she had said, I had said, keep the faith, like, let's see what happens. And then what she did was she pulled up her sleeve on her shirt, and she showed me a cross tattoo. She has no idea that I've just gone in to have a cross tattoo removed, that I'm in the process of having it removed. And she pulls up her sleeve and shows me a cross tattoo. And she says, yeah, I'm really trying to keep the faith. I really believe. I really do. I'm not like usually a superstitious person, but I'm just really struggling. I just can't deal with one more thing. And she goes, and I don't have any money for a toe. So I don't know what we're going to do. And then she realized like she had like overshared, and she was like, you don't have to do anything. I'm sorry. I'm just in a bad space. And I was like, I get it. I'm so sorry. I was like, yeah, it sucks. Let's see what happens. Maybe let's just give it some more time. Let's see what happens. Trying to kind of calm her down. And I'm blown away. And then I'm like, you know what's really kind of crazy? And I was like, I lift up my shirt and I show her this tattoo that I'm having removed, which is the Christian, fish, so the cross with the fish. And I say, I was just, that appointment that I was in was to get this Christian fish tattoo removed. And I still deeply value those beliefs, and the faith is still very much alive for me, but I just didn't like the tattoo anymore. I'm not, I kind of don't like it anymore. And so it's funny that you would show me your cross tattoo in this moment. And she had this little sparkle in her eye, like, whoa, that's like kind of bizarre. And I did too. I was like, this is kind of magical. Like, what's happening? And anyway, so then I sit down in my car and we're sitting there, and I can just hear her being like, I'm at the end, and it's Friday the 13th, and I messed up. And I'm like, keep the faith. And I'm realizing this car is not going to start. And then what am I going to do? Well, keep the faith, give her a hug, and like leave, But here's the inner process. And this is the one I'm embarrassed of. Inside my head, I'm sitting there going, you should, I mean, I could go get some money and give it to her so she could get a toe. But is that enabling someone? Is that crossing a boundary? Do I have a Messiah complex? You know what I mean? Like, and, shouldn't I, isn't it better than giving someone a fish, to teach them how to fish? That kind of rhetoric is going through my head. And I'm really like torn up about this. Like, I should just go to the ATM and just get some cash. I have enough cash to help someone with a toe, and it won't hurt me. So, why wouldn't I do it? And then I'm like, well, because, you want to, well, how will they grow if they don't have, they're going to need something more than a toe to deal with what they're feeling right now. And blah, blah, blah. It's like this embarrassingly miserly debate going on in my head, And how many times in spiritual and religious communities and circles have I heard people say that phrase, give a person a fish, they eat for a day, teach them how to fish, and they eat for a lifetime. And suddenly I just had this moment sitting there with Mars, Neptune, and I was thinking about Mars, Neptune too. And I go, like, can it be both? Can't we do things that are practically helpful, that are not, that are not just enabling to someone, that are practically useful and helpful, meeting a need, fulfilling a need, giving people clothing or food or shelter? Isn't there something about that is itself spiritual? Why does this dichotomy exist in my head? That you can't that a practical, helpful action meeting a human material need can't also serve a spiritual purpose in that person's life or in mine? Why is there's a false dichotomy here? And I'm done. I'm done with this craziness in my head. The universe has put this in my path, has given me a little parallel tattoo symbol from the cosmic Christ energy. Her car is not being charged. She does not need me to teach her a mantra in this moment. She does not need me to, give her a placard of a Bible verse and a hug and keep the faith, Hare Krishna or whatever, she needs about, probably like $150 or something to get a toe. I mean, I don't know, whatever. So I went around the corner and I got a few $100s out of the ATM, and I came back and I just said, hey, let's make this about more than Friday the 13th. It's clear you need a toe. Here's a little bit of cash. And she was like, no, I can't. And I was like, yes, please. I was like, look, our cross tattoo thing, like, we crossed our paths for a reason. Let's make this about more than Friday the 13th. Right. And she like smiled and accepted. And then she just broke down crying. And then I did too, so we were all blubbery. And she said, can I give you a hug? And I said, yeah. I gave her a big hug. And I could tell, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong and I'm just making this up in my head, but it felt like she needed a hug. Like it was just one of those days where, like, maybe even more than just helping her out with a toe. Like she needed a hug. And I realized that I needed one too. I needed one too because I was in just a miserly place that I didn't even know I was in. You know what I mean? And I'm not always there, but I was. When we go, I'll come back and I'll help you after my tattoo removal appointment, where I'm removing the Christ, the Christ symbol from my arm, and like apparently forgetting my faith too. And anyway, so I came, this came full circle. We hugged it out. And she looked at me and she said, I've been really struggling a lot lately with my faith. And you just helped me today. You reminded me that God's got my back. I was like, see, Achuta, like you're so, like what you're sitting there debating what's the spiritual thing that I can give her, because it's probably not cash. It's like, no, it was cash. It was just a cash and a hug. There's no skin off my back. I wasn't enabling her. It turned out that there was something that was practical and material and spiritual all at once. It was just a good thing to do. It was, and you know what? Selfishly, it was probably better for me, even in the sense that it somehow knocked my head back onto, into alignment with my heart somehow. And I was just like, wow, I really needed that. Thank you. So, and anyway, I just wanted to share that story. It was a very Mars-Neptune story. A lot of the time when it comes to Mars-Neptune, it's not easy. You have an alcoholic in the house. How much do you try to help them? How much do you stay in your own lane? You know what I mean? It's not, Mars-Neptune is always asking us, what can you surrender? What can you give? What can you compromise? What can you sacrifice? And what shouldn't you compromise or sacrifice? Where do you go looking for your value or your worth through being a great hero, or what, like, and it's possible that you're by helping people, you're just trying to validate your ego in the world. And so of course, people, we all walk around sometimes with little messiah complexes. I'm so, let me bless you, like, because I have so much light to give, but then there's other times where it's like, we can use that whole motto, teach a person to fish, don't give them a fish. I have to take care of myself. I can't give too much, or I will, I'll be enabling someone. Like, the other thing is also true, that there's certain times where to pour oneself out, to be the bodhisattva, to be like Christ, or like a, Kuan Yin, or a goddess of mercy, or something fills us and we realize that the only thing that I have, everything that I have is most worthy of being given in service. That's what its ultimate best use is. And it's a blessing if the universe should put me in a position to be able to give something that I can give that doesn't hurt me at all. And yeah, there's a lot of discernment with Mars-Neptune around when it's the right time to do that and when it's not. So for the horoscopes today, anyway, I hope you enjoyed that story, and I can't tell you exactly what to think about that, about all of that. But for me, it was just a great instance of the practical thing and the spiritual, the way of helping, are so often one and the same, and we try to make it a lot more complicated than that. Just do the right thing, help in the right way, in the simplest, most direct way, without any expectation of return or attachment to what comes from it. And that is often the thing that has the deepest impact on other people and back on us, So that was the lesson that I learned. It was a very Mars-Neptune lesson, and weirdly connected to like the fish symbol and the Christian symbol and her Christian tattoo and faith and Friday the 13th and superstition and Mercury retrograde, all this. And it was just, here I am to, like, keep the faith, just, we'll see if it works out, keep the faith. And then considering just leaving and letting her figure it out. Well, I get to keep my faith. You know what I mean? I was almost going to do that. Thank God that I didn't, because wow, I wouldn't have received the mercy of that moment. You know what I mean? It was so powerful. I can't even tell you how deeply I was moved by that experience. So for today's horoscopes, we are going to look at all 12 signs, and we're going to talk about surrender, dissolution, sacrifice. Where are you being asked to act on behalf of someone or something bigger than yourself? Where is compromise being asked of you, surrender, dissolution? And also, where are you having to find the boundary between how much you can give and maybe staying in your own lane? I think that tension can still be there with this transit. It's not, there are situations in which someone might come up to you and demand something of you, and you realize that this is enabling and not helping, and that's another thing. It's not black and white though, is it? All right, anyway, let's go ahead and look at the real-time clock. So if you are an Aries rising, this is your ascendant ruler, and it's in the 12th house with Neptune. So I think about the quintessential letting go of control. This is your ascendant ruler. This is about your own psychology, your own will, and your own personal control of yourself or something around you. And maybe you're being asked to let go on a deeper level. Maybe you're being asked to surrender on a level that's not very comfortable. Or maybe there is some compromise or sacrifice or something bigger than yourself that you're being asked to act on behalf of, or to be free from the grips of something that is taking you out of control, an addiction or a habit or something like that. But look at those tensions right now if you're an Aries in your 12th house. All right, let's go to Taurus. So if you're a Taurus rising, this is taking place in your 11th house. We're looking at letting go, sacrifice, compromise, surrender around friends, groups of people, organizations, institutions that you belong to. There's something here about sacrifice or compromise or letting go or serving something bigger than yourself, being called to something that is bigger and requires sacrifice or compromise. It might be around groups of friends, groups of people. Look at that if you're a Taurus rising. I'm just doing some quick keywords today. Gemini, we're putting on the ascendant, and then we see that this Mars-Neptune conjunction falls into the 10th house of career. What are you being asked to act on behalf of? Something bigger than yourself at work, within your career, your reputation in the world. What are you being called to serve? What will or spirit is guiding you into something bigger? Also, maybe you're being asked to let go of something within your career or your reputation, make a sacrifice or a compromise. For Cancer, we're talking about the 9th house, the place of religion and beliefs. Where are you being asked to surrender literally to a calling, a philosophy, a belief, an ethic, something larger than yourself that you deeply believe in that's asking for surrender or compromise or sacrifice? Or maybe you're giving up or letting go of an old idea, an old practice, an old belief that needs to be let go of. You need to empty out so that you can experience something new. With Leo, we are moving this Mars-Neptune energy into the 8th house. Think about letting go of debts and obligations or attachments to other people that you have or that other people have to you. The question of what can I serve in the other? How do others serve me? What is the healthy version of codependency versus the unhealthy version of cooperative dependency? These are crucial questions right now for Leos. Let's go to Virgo. So if you're a Virgo, we're taking this Mars-Neptune energy and we're placing it into the 7th house of love and relationships, where we might ask the question, for whom am I willing to sacrifice? Or who am I letting go of? Or what relationship am I letting go of? Or how am I being asked to surrender or give something more of myself to someone other than myself? What kind of boundaries need to be kept versus dissolved within relationships? Let's go to Libra. So if you're a Libra rising, you're going to find that this Mars-Neptune dynamic is in your 6th house. And the 6th house is a place of frustrations, enmities, conflicts, disease, and sickness. Is a disease, sickness, frustration, or conflict acting as your teacher right now, teaching you that There is something bigger here that is trying to present itself or teach you or guide you, but it is frustrating. It's requiring you to work through a frustration, a sickness, a setback, a conflict. And also, what are you willing to fight on behalf of or for? So let's go forward to Scorpio. So for Scorpio rising, we're looking at the 5th house, place associated with pleasure and desire, creativity. Is there an unhealthy desire or attachment related to pleasure that needs to be sacrificed or let go of? Is there something that has been essential to your personal joy that you're being asked to release? Sometimes the things that give us the most joy, they don't last forever and it's hard to let go of them. Or sometimes our, where we want to go, what we want to do creatively or for the sake of joy or happiness or love even, requires some act of compromise or sacrifice. So when it comes to pleasure, joy, creativity, what are you being asked to serve that's bigger than yourself, or how are you being asked to compromise or give to something bigger than yourself that ultimately is also associated with pleasure, joy, creativity? So for Sagittarius, we're going to put a Sagittarius on the ascendant, and we now look at the Mars-Neptune dynamic. Oh, huge circle again. Look at the we look at the Mars-Neptune dynamic in the 4th house, and you think about sacrifices or compromises that are being made for the sake of family members around the topic of your living environment, your family karma, and things like that. This is a powerful moment of looking at the bigger picture, looking at what needs you can help with and which you can't. Sometimes I've seen many Neptune transits in the 4th house where it's all about what can I give or help with and what can't I give or help with relative to the suffering of other family members. So compromise, sacrifice, letting go around home, family, roots. Let's look at Capricorn on the ascendant. If you are a Capricorn sun or rising, then you're looking at Mars, Neptune in the 3rd. Letting go on the level of mind and emotions. How can we learn to think more compassionately? How can our thoughts be more generous? How can our mind or our communication be speaking on behalf of someone or something bigger than ourselves? So our mind is being informed in a sense by a will or a purpose greater than our own. And how is that influencing you or changing the way you think or perceive or relate or communicate? Okay, for Aquarius, we're putting the Mars-Neptune energy in the 2nd house. How are you being asked to use your resources? I don't know why it sometimes, I think I must accidentally click it. Okay. How are you being asked to surrender something of your money, your time, your energy, your resources? What kinds of sacrifices are you making with regard to what you have or own or possess? Where is there a purchase even or a financial strategy that's about some longer or bigger goal, and it requires in the short term that you compromise or sacrifice? These are the key words you can tell I'm using over and over again. Finally, for Pisces rising, here it's about how can I let go on the level of my own body and mind and identity. Very similar to Aries rising with the ascendant ruler in the 12th, Mars, Neptune in the 1st. Who and what do I serve? Who and what am I identified with? Who am I? And what thing larger than myself can I be identified with? Or do I have to dissolve my connection with? This Mars-Neptune can be deeply existential for Pisces in the 1st house on the level of body, mind, identity, and something that you need to serve or sacrifice or compromise on behalf of that's larger or bigger, a calling, or something that you have been serving that you need to disconnect from in order to somehow come back to yourself. Those are the kinds of things that I'm seeing right now for all 12 signs. I hope that you find this to be a useful meditation today, both on the level of the horoscopes as well as the little Mars Neptune anecdote from my own experience recently. Thinking about how we can spiritualize our actions. How can the practical thing be the transcendental thing? For example, in the Bhakti tradition, one thing I love about the Bhakti tradition is that we say that in the Gita, Krishna says, if you offer me a piece of fruit, a leaf, a flower, some water, I completely accept. And there's a way in which sometimes we think, well, the spiritual stuff happens, when I meditate or when I pray or, when I study something spiritual or think spiritual thoughts or talk about spiritual things. And certainly all of that's true, but isn't it also finally about how we relate to this beautiful world that we live in? And isn't part of it about learning how the very simplest of actions, of human actions, especially the love and care that we give for each other in this very material setting that we are in, is it not from that space that spirit and matter are fused and sanctification occurs? It's a very Mars-Neptune dynamic. Mars being such a physical, worldly planet of action, and Neptune being such an otherworldly kind of energy. So I hope you guys are doing well this week. I hope that these horoscopes were useful. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your comments. Always appreciate that. Don't forget the new course starts on June 5th. Check it out on my website, nightlightastrology.com. I hope to study with some of you soon, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.